This afternoon from New Frontier Lanes in Tacoma, we're happy to bring you action of this 28th annual ABC Tacoma Masters Tournament. Hi, everybody. I'm Todd Pickett. Thanks for joining us once again. You're in for some exciting bowling action and also some expert commentary from our special guest commentator today, and we'd like to welcome him back to Tacoma, Earl Anthony. Earl, it's a pleasure to be working with you this afternoon.
Thank you, Todd. It's a pleasure to be back in my hometown. I'm looking forward to this. We've got some really talented young players today. Should see some big scores.
And I guess we can welcome you back to a tournament that you were past champion of as well. Tell us a little bit about the prestige of this tournament and what it means to the winner.
Well, I think the winner is, the pressure is what's really what it's all about, because you're representing the Greater Northwest basically, not only Tacoma, but the Greater Northwest in an event that the individual, when he goes back to bowl in the American Bowling Congress Masters Championships, he feels that little bit of pressure of representing all the people at home. And when you're representing your hometown, it gives you a little more of a tingle, you might say. It's a tough tournament to win. It's a big grind. It's scheduled over 2 weekends, which makes it even tougher. It comes down to 16 games of match play with the top 5 on television today.
We've had a lot of jostling back and forth to reach that 5-man field, and let's take a look at our top 5 qualifiers now and talk a little bit about them. In the 5th position today, number 5 qualifier is Bob Bjorke.
And he's a very experienced player. He could be very tough in that first match. And the winner of the first match really has a chance to go all the way, I think.
And Bob will be taking on Mike Clark in that first match. Mike is the number 4 qualifier.
And one of the finer young players in the Tacoma area. Look for him to shoot a big score. Whether it's good enough to beat Bob, that's the question.
The winner of that match will take on Michael Karch, qualifier number 3.
And probably the most experienced player in the field. He's bowled on the PBA Tour for a number of years. He knows how to make good adjustments on the lanes, and I don't think the pressure of the match will bother him as much as it might some of the other players.
In the number 2 position today, Simon Little.
The only left-hander in the top 5. For him, it's a matter of carry. If he can get the 7-pin out, he's got a good chance.
And waiting for the survivor, as it were, up on top qualifier Scott Alexander.
The young man with the strongest game in the field, probably the hardest hitting ball of the 5 players. If Scott gets it going, he can throw strikes forever. Should be an exciting tournament.
Let's talk a little bit about the lane conditions, and what sort of scores do you expect to see today?
Oh, it's been good all week, and I expect it to continue. And even though they're bowling on television, all 5 players have been throwing a lot of strikes, and it comes down to who can carry. The lane condition is excellent. The corner pins are tough. Spares are very important.
The competition will be good, and we'll be right back with our first match from Tacoma. Bob Bjorke will take on Mike Clark. The action's coming up right after this.
Wild thing. It is a wild thing. Come shout and sing, join in the ring. It could be queen or it could be king. You go your way and I'll go mine, as long as you just make it fine.
Good times roll with the clean, fresh taste of Bud Light. It won't fill you up, never let you down.
Wild thing. Wild thing.
Thunderbird Discount Store and Deli, featuring walls and walls of your favorite goods, all at discount prices. Thunderbird Deli offers a delicious array of snacks, as well as daily breakfast and lunch specials. Also enjoy dinner 7 nights a week. And for new excitement and action, our new Thunderbird Sports Bar. Don't miss the bargains. Thunderbird Store and Deli, 72nd and Waller in Tacoma.
This week on ESPN Sunday Night NFL, the Philadelphia Eagles battle the Miami Dolphins. The Philadelphia Eagles. Randall Cunningham leads a team that's in short supply of brotherly love as Buddy's boys try to squish the fish. The Miami Dolphins. Dan Marino digs in for this battle between 2 of the NFL's premier rifle arms. The Eagles face the Dolphins live at 8 Eastern on ESPN Sunday Night NFL.
Ready for match number 1 in the Tacoma Masters. Bob Bjorke, our number 5 qualifier, will take on Mike Clark, and as you can see, just a 32-pin difference between the 2 bowlers. We'll take a look at Mike Clark first as he'll get ready to roll. Actually entered the finals in the 12th qualifying position, so he really moved up to get into this final round of 5.
He did, and it's kind of an unusual format, Todd, in that the qualifying was held not this weekend, but a couple ago, and they dropped the carryover. So these players started out even in the match play. 16 games of match play to get to this point.
Mike looked real solid in the warm-ups, and he starts out well.
Both players rolling the ball well, and I think a key here is carry, and we talked about that earlier, the fact that the player that carries the corner pins is obviously going to do the best. It's very easy to keep the ball in the pocket area. It's a matter of carrying the 10-pin and the 4-pin for the right-handers.
Bob Bjorke, the number 5 qualifier.
Excellent lane condition, very high scoring lane condition. The maintenance here at New Frontier Lanes is one of the best in the country. They dress the lanes twice a day. They make sure they're cleaned constantly. There's a good look at the style of Bob Bjorke. Kind of a unique release in that if you watch his hand when he starts the ball, it's almost on the side. Then he gets behind it right at the bottom of the swing, and he can control his speed better than most players. Probably the biggest strength in his game is the ability to adjust to the changes in the lanes and change his ball speed.
With a little less turn to his ball, then, is that to his advantage, or does that make it a little bit more difficult in picking up things?
Well, when you have less turn, the tendency is for the ball to hook a little early. But on this particular lane condition, because there's so much oil in the first part of the lane, Todd, it really isn't a disadvantage for him. Actually, it's an advantage to have that early roll that he generates. He'll be able to get the ball to hit very well, and as far as accuracy, he's probably the most accurate player of the top 5 today. It's an easy spare, the 2-pin only. He'll go pretty much. Most of the players on their spares that are on the left side of the lane today, they'll be hooking the ball into the spare, trying to go around the oil. There's heavier oil in the middle of the lane, so they want to get out toward the edge of the lane where it's a little drier and get the ball to hook across the lane into the left side pins. As far as shooting their spares on the right-hand side of the lane, the 10-pin and pins of that nature, they'll go cross lane, but they'll use more ball speed and go more direct. Spare shooting, even though there's a lot of strikes been thrown in the tournament throughout, and the scores have been very good, spare shooting has been a key. Still have to make those spares.
And for these two, making an initial adjustment as well from the lanes that they were on earlier today to the pair for the finals.
Exactly. Good point, Todd, because this pair has not been used at all in the match play portion of the tournament. And we have brand new pins down there, first time they've been in play, and that makes them a little tougher to knock down. Great shot there. Mike is really rolling the ball well. He's really pumped up, got a lot of adrenaline going. And when you get into the first match, it's very, very normal for the players to be really pumped up and maybe throw it a little bit harder. Here's a good look at the style of Mike, and you can see he uses good knee bend, and he likes to get the ball well out in the lane, a lot of loft, and lots of back end.
So far, the guys are making everything look awful easy.
Yeah, nobody's really taking command yet. It's one of them gets a string going, the other one's going to have to get going just as quickly, because once they get it going here, it seems like they can strike forever. And that's what we expect. We expect those good scores.
All even as Mike starts the third frame.
There's the kind of mistake that has been deadly this week. If you get the ball a little bit too far to the right, there's almost what you might call a hang spot, or a little extra oil out toward the edge of the lane, and the ball goes too far down the lane and doesn't have a chance to get back. And again, here's a look at the style of Mike Clark, and watch the ball. It's too far out near the channel. You can see it losing traction, not quite getting back to the pocket. Difficult spare. He'll try to slide the 2-pin across lane into the 10. And as we talked about, you and I, Todd, a little earlier, Bob Bjorke is a 2-time champion in this event, so he's very experienced, and I don't expect him to let Mike Clark get away with that kind of a mistake without jumping all over him right here.
Bjorke now with a 14-pin advantage as well as he gets set for his third frame.
Okay, Bob.
typical of a good player. When the other one makes a mistake, he jumps right on top of him now. You see the unique style of Bob Bjorke and that real hard lift at the bottom, but his hand on the side of the ball brings it behind the ball, almost a figure-8 position, getting it back into position at the bottom, very close to his left ankle for the good lift and leverage.
Gets a little help there and keeps the string going.
As they say, hit him thin and watch him spin, and that's exactly what he did. And that good roll we were talking about before, the forward roll, the end-over-end roll, gives you that kind of carry. Watch the ball, almost the same angle or trajectory that Mike Clark's ball didn't quite get back. His gets back just enough to get the head pin to the wall and kick out to 7.
Clark now down 24.
And again, that solid 10, Todd, just as he did earlier. And in the second frame, he threw the ball the same place exactly, and it's just a bad break. He really rolled it well. You can see the disappointment on his face, and I don't blame him. That was a great shot.
Let's talk a little bit too about Mike changing balls now for the spare too.
And it's not unusual. Most of the experienced players will do that. They'll go to a shinier or smoother surface ball, so they can go cross lane knowing that the ball won't hook very much. And the idea in a 1-pin or a 2-pin spare is just to hit them. You don't have to throw a lot of ball or make the ball hook a lot. Actually, you'll have less control. And the top players will change balls so it's something they can control extremely well. Here's a look at the cross lane. You can see the good knee bend, the great form of Mike Clark.
Looks solid.
Little adjustment there, Todd, and a very good adjustment. He went more direct with the ball. He didn't get it quite out as far on the lane as he did on the other shot on that lane where he left the split. And that again, that's a little bit of experience, and he knows that he has to make that good shot, get back into the match. And this is an excellent shot. It's a good drive, hard-hitting ball.
Now Bob Bjorke again with the 24-pin advantage.
Well, that's what you call just tough luck there. The 4-9, and I think Bob knew he made a little mistake there when he released the ball. You could see by his expression at the foul line that he wasn't happy with it. And sometimes you get the good break where you'll trip the 4 into the 9. Didn't happen here. And this look on his face at the point of release was, uh-oh, I set it down early and it's going to go high. And he knew it was. Just a bad break here that he didn't trip the 4 out at least. Difficult spare, cross lane, try to slide the 4 into the 9. A little distraction in the back. One of our younger fans making a little noise back there. Smart thing to do. Set the ball down, start over.
And again, with Bob's experience, maybe something he can adjust to a little bit better than some of the other competitors.
Someone with less experience might have gone ahead and made the shot. And
it's Bob's first open frame. Drops his advantage down a little bit. Mentally now, what does he do to gear back up once again?
Well, I don't think that's going to bother him. I think he feels like he knows what went wrong on that lane. This is the lane he has to worry about. The lane 7 is the tougher of the 2 lanes. This is the one that has that little hang area out to the right. The important thing is here is not to give it too much room by making an adjustment off a shot that hooked more than you expected in the 8th frame, on lane 8, excuse me. All right, it's anybody's match now. Both players with 1 open. Mike Clark a chance to tie it up with a strike here.
He had to be able to exhale a little bit, though, when he saw that 4-9 come up on 8 a minute ago.
Well, you don't ever really wish your opponent bad luck. You just hope he doesn't get anything going that you can't catch up.
Give me an opportunity, please.
Right.
Yeah. Gets that same kick again.
Unbelievable. And you can see Mike's expression there, Todd. It's just, I don't know what to do now, folks. 3 in a row, dead solid in the pocket. 3 solid 10s. And look at that form. It's outstanding. The ball is right there where he wants it to be, maybe a little behind the head pin. Sends the 4 up and around the 10.
Had a couple glance off it even. So with the magnetic 10-pin down once more.
Well, here we are. We're not to defend the players so much as to give you a little better idea is that, again, they haven't bowled on this pair until this particular game. We're using brand new pins. So there is some adjustment to be made by the players. Plus, the carry is tougher on new pins. They tend to not fall down quite as easily. Same mistake. Same mistake. Remember earlier when he left the split and Mike got the ball wide again in the third frame, exactly the same ball reaction. He knew it when he let go. You could see he stood up at the foul line like, oh no, here we go again. Very costly mistake. I don't think Bob Bjorke is going to let him off the hook twice.
Bob now set for his 7th frame and looking at a pretty good advantage once again.
And it's getting late in the match now. It's down to crunch time, and a good chance here for Bob on a strike to really take control. One of the more important things in getting the strike, the angle of the ball coming into the pins, is being done by Bob Bjorke. As you see, his ball goes into a roll a little sooner. We talked about that. And by the ball going into a roll sooner, he doesn't hook it as much on the other end of the lane down by the pins. If you don't hook it a lot, you don't come in behind the head pin. Mike Clark's ball hooking a lot, coming in behind the head pin is leaving the solid 10. Bob Bjorke is carrying on the same basic hit. And the soft 10, the weak 10 as the players call it, and he got it out into that oil that, again, lane 7 being the more difficult of the two.
You could really just see it hover out there for that extra moment, couldn't you?
That's exactly what happens. The ball skids just a little bit farther, doesn't quite get back flush, doesn't have the heavy hit on it, the extra roll that it needs to carry the corner pin.
You saw Bob's advantage there.
Kind of a unique thing also for a televised event, Todd, is the fact that all the players know each other. They bowl league with each other. They bowl against each other in competitions throughout the year. So they know each other's games really well, and they know how the other guy thinks. It's a big advantage that way when you're bowling against a friend, you might say.
I was going to say, it's nice to see the camaraderie, too.
Exactly. The hand slaps. See if he can carry the 10. And Mike's pressing a little bit, and he's very disappointed. You see him shaking his head out there. He's really trying to force the shot now, down to the last few frames of the match. And here's a great look at the style, a good knee bend again, that good leverage, good strong follow through.
Mike takes a quick second to take a look at the score and realizes he's not in a real good position.
Still got a chance. You never know what's going to happen. Bowling is a strange game. Neither player really overpowering the pins or bowling a very strong game. 9th frame, his foundation frame. Desperately needs a strike. And the 4-pin. And it doesn't look very good for Mike Clark right now, Todd.
It's times like these, yeah, I was just thinking where you've almost got to scratch your head, don't you? And just say, what in the world is going on?
You know, the key for him was very obvious. It was the 3 solid 10 pins on lane 8. If he would have carried those, I think he would have been more confident on lane 7. And bowling is a game of confidence. If you feel comfortable, you make better shots.
Bjorke now just needing a mark to win anywhere in the 9th and 10th, and he'll close the game out. Move on to take Mike Karch on in our next game.
as you mentioned, Todd, that experience factor is so important, and we talked about Bob Bjorke being a two-time champion in this event. He's been in this situation before. He's got a tough road to hoe, though, coming up against Mike Karch in the next match. Mike Karch, even more experienced, bowled on the tour for a number of years, on the national PBA tour. That should be a good match.
Sneaks one in the back door as well for good measure.
They always fall down when you don't need them. You ever notice that?
That's, I think that's another Murphy's bowling law somewhere out there. Interesting now to watch Bob's adaptability. That's something we've talked about, and see him adjust again.
Well, this is a good time for him to do that, and it's good that you brought that up, Todd, because this is when the experienced player now tries to find out what's wrong, what he has to do on lane 7 for the next match. And there he made a good move right there. That was a good adjustment there. A little more ball speed, a little more direct, and not giving the ball a chance to go out into that oil where all the problems are. By going more direct, he can, with a little more speed, he can hold the line, keep the ball in play better.
I guess in his case, too, he's got to be careful not to flirt with the head pin when he tries that.
Good point.
.225 game for Bob Bjorke, so we start out already with a good effort that you were looking for.
Good effort. I expected the matches to be even a little higher scoring in this, and you see the final shot of the first match by Bob Bjorke, and now Mike Clark just finishing out, and I'm sure this young man is very disappointed at this point. And I know exactly what's going through his mind. That strike, why now? You know?
Yeah.
After those 3 solid 10 pins on lane 8, he makes another great shot, and they all fall down, and a little bit of a wry smile there.
Sometimes a little easier, though, with the burden gone.
Exactly.
Yeah. A little bit of comfort knowing he'll be $600 richer at the end of the afternoon.
Not a bad day's pay. Not bad at all.
I'd settle for that at the end of the day. Yeah.
These are the finest young talented bowlers in the Tacoma area, and they're putting on a good show for all. We've got a big crowd here. It's been a wonderful tournament.
Closes out with a 179. Mike Clark will finish in 5th place as he congratulates Bob Bjorke. And Bob will head on to take on Mike Karch in our next match in a matchup of past champions of this tournament. You see our final score from match number 1. Bob Bjorke is the winner. We'll have the next contest for you against Mike Karch coming up right after this.
Experience, a little psychology involved with determining who's going to start the match. Whoever starts the match also finishes first.
After it looked like he dialed 7 in pretty well there.
Yeah, again, you know, you stand around a little bit during the commercial, and you know, you get started again. It's kind of hard to be loose with that first shot. And you could see a little bit of that fact that we talked about before, Todd, in that lane 7. If you give it a little room, he doesn't want to hook back, so he went a little more direct and through the middle of the head pin. Got a break, no split. Not an easy spare.
Makes it look easy. And interesting, too, we've got both these guys now both working with just one ball. So they're real confident with being able to change their games a little bit more than having to change equipment.
And a solid 10, very similar to what Mike Clark did in the first match. And Mike Karch's style is a little different also as he uses his upper body strength. He's a very strong young man. He can throw the ball very hard if necessary. A lot of heavy forward roll. Here you see him down low. He stops very quickly, doesn't use a lot of slide, and that's solid 10.
Got introduced to it early. We mentioned the commercial going into the match, a pairing of past champions, Mike Karch, the winner of this tournament in 1985.
And I think I've mentioned already a little bit, too, the fact that Mike is a very experienced player. He's bowled a number of events on the national tour, and that kind of experience coming back to your hometown always helps a little bit. But I don't think anybody can bother Bob Bjorke. He's just out there. He's nice and loose and relaxed and very much within himself.
Real interesting approach for Mike on that one as well.
Well, Mike's style is very fundamental, very sound, but again, he uses his upper body strength so much. He can get away with that because of that strength. He can overpower the lane condition. There's a good look at him from the front. As you can see, he stops a good 6-8 inches behind the foul line, but his balance is very good, and the strength to get the ball down the lane. A lot of ball speed.
That's it, Bobby. Come on, Bobby.
Something else I don't think either one of these guys would be affected by is the size of this crowd, and it is an amazing turnout for the finals today.
It is, and here at New Frontier Lanes, one of the better centers in the city of Tacoma, and one of the highest scoring, if not the highest scoring center in the Tacoma area. Ron Dittmore and his wife Clee and are co-owners of this place, and they do a wonderful job of maintenance here, which is what leads to good scores.
You saw part of our crowd there as they applaud Bob picking up the spare. And of course, Bud Light's been a tremendous sponsor to help make a lot of that possible, the conditions, the environment, and the prize money as well that attracted a lot of the top bowlers.
Bud very much involved in sports and especially in bowling, and of course we all appreciate their sponsorship of any of the bowling events.
Went from disaster to greatness in a matter of seconds there.
The back end of the lanes, when I say the back end, I mean the last 15 to 20 feet of the lane is dry, and you get the ball to roll very hard. Here's a good look at this. Now watch the 5-pin. Go to the side, take out the 7. The head pin comes off the sideboard. That's the head pin coming all the way across. Take out the 10-pin. Great pin action.
Karch with a 1-pin advantage.
All right, Bob, come on.
And again, the solid 10. Easier to hit the pocket on lane 8, tougher to carry for some reason, Todd. A lot of 10 pins over there. Lane 7, harder to hit the pocket, but when they do get to the pocket, they carry. And again, Mike Karch has chosen to finish on lane 7, which is tougher to hit the pocket, but if you can get it there, he'll strike.
Covers the 10 once again.
There's a great look at the style of Mike Karch going cross lane at the 10-pin. And again, that extremely good ball speed. He can generate ball speed that a lot of other players can't. And that's so important when you're going at your spares, especially the 1-pin spares where you don't want the ball to hook. More control, easier to knock them down. Hard and straight.
Looks good, Mike.
And he does not get the break that he was looking for to kick that 10-pin out. And we keep saying this, and it bears repeating. This is the lane that's the most difficult to hit the pocket on. As you see, Mike got the ball up a little high in the head pin, leaves the 4, 7, 10. He's going to try to slide the 4-pin across the lane, take out the 10.
Take him.
Good effort, but can't get that slide. You know, we talked about the power game being an advantage on the single-pin spares. Is there ever a time when it's a disadvantage?
The only time it's a disadvantage to have the extreme ball speed is if there's a lot of oil on the lanes and when the ball doesn't really create traction if it's going down the lane too fast. And if you don't get the traction, obviously you won't get the pin action you want on your strike ball. Seems like everybody's been giving Bob Bjorke an opportunity today, and he's taken advantage of it so far.
13-pin advantage for Bob right now. You can see the confidence.
Yeah, it's kind of nice when you know you're bowling against a very experienced player like Mike Karch, and as you mentioned, a defending champion in this event. Not defending the past year, but he's won it in the past, and Bob Bjorke, a two-time champion, both very experienced. But to have him make a mistake to give you the opportunity to take the lead like this, you don't expect that to happen. And psychologically, or in your own mind, if you're out there in this match, you're thinking, boy, this is my chance to jump all over this guy. I got to do it now. And again, the soft 10 for Bob Bjorke, and Bob's ball doesn't hit as hard as the other players, and as we get farther along in the matches, and here's a good look at his style, you can see his shoulders go back, and when your shoulders go back that way, you don't get the good lift and leverage on the ball that you would get if your shoulders were out over your knee. So his ball doesn't hit quite as hard in the pin area, and he'll leave more soft 10s than the other player. Mike Karch, on the other hand, will leave that ringing 10 or that very solid 10.
All right, Bob.
Bob picking up that spare, has a 22-pin advantage now over Mike Karch. So Mike gets set for his fifth frame.
That's the one he was looking for. He finally got the 10 out on lane 8 after 2 good 10 pins over there. And you can see the concentration on Mike's face standing there. And here's a good look at his style again. He gets the ball well out over the foul line, good loft and good rotation, a lot of forward roll, but more ball speed, obviously, than Bob Bjorke.
See if it serves as a trigger for him.
Still anybody's game, Todd.
Cuts into Bob's lead. Now Bob with a 12-pin advantage. Watch Bob dial himself in preparation. He has that concentration going in.
He probably has the strongest mental game of any of the players. His concentration is excellent, and there's that unique style. The shoulders go back at the point of release. Got plenty on that one.
I'm not used to seeing so many pockets hit. You got to understand. So. A lot of body English to that one, but it paid off. He was rooting for the ball all the way down.
And he's using basically 2 different ball speeds. On the right-hand lane, he's a little softer. On lane 8, he wants the ball to finish a little harder. On lane 7, knowing that there's a little bit of a death area out there to the right, he doesn't want to give it any room, so he's using more ball speed on lane 7 to make the ball hold the line.
Karch comes back with his 3rd in a row.
Now we're getting into the kind of matches we expected. The good scores, both players lined up, making good shots.
And Karch back to within 12 now.
Gotta hurry.
Ventured into the twilight zone, didn't he?
Exactly, and just what we're talking about, and that happens. That ball speed, he got up to the foul line just a little bit quick with his feet there, let the ball go out to the right, and had no chance to get it back to the pocket. And very disappointed Mike Karch at this point. The washout, the 1-2-4-7, he's going to try to get the ball to the left of the head pin, have the head pin take out the 10. 1-2-4-10, excuse me.
Just missed getting it to kick there. And as we've said so many times before, another opportunity for Bob.
And everybody seems to be wanting, and we talked about that in the opening, the experience of Bob Bjorke and the fact that if he got it going, he could go all the way today, and it looks like the other players are giving him that opportunity. Nobody's been able to put any pressure on Bob up to this point.
It'd be real easy to make the analogy to Bob right now, really, of a veteran pitcher. I mean, he's in the groove, but he's able to make those adjustments from situation to situation.
And he's doing what bowling's all about. And what bowling is a game of mistakes. Whoever makes the most generally loses, and Bob's making the fewest mistakes. He's letting the other players make the mistakes, and when they do, he's jumping on that opportunity. Still both players struggling with the left-hand lane, and I think Bob was happy with that shot. He tried to generate that little extra speed to make the ball hold, and I think he was surprised that it hooked as much as it did.
Not a terribly bad time to throw it up 37 in the ninth.
No, he's in good shape now. Actually, if he makes the spare, he probably will close out the match at this point. And even with the experience of these young players, and they are all young and they've done a lot of bowling locally, but to bowl on television, it's still a little bit frightening, and I think they're doing extremely well.
Karch trying to hang on here. Started the frame down 36.
And Mike just finishing out, trying to get a little respectability into his score at this point. See what he does on this lane, the trouble lane.
Finds a little bit more.
And a look of bewilderment, you might say, on Mike's face, like, what happened? You know, I really expected in my own mind that Mike Karch would bowl a better score than this, and I'm sure he did also.
So Mike Karch will finish in the number 4 position. He'll take home $700 today. Leaves 3. Karch finishing with a 187. Bob Bjorke will get set to take on Simon Little. The winner of that match will move into the championship game.
And that one should be interesting. Simon Little, the only left-hander in the top 5 today, and he's playing actually more inside on the lanes than the right-handers are, so it should be fun to watch. Another point is that as the bowlers continue to play, the ball goes down the lane, it will change the ball reaction because the ball will move the oil around and carry it down the lane a little bit. And the advantage then goes to Bob Bjorke. And by that I mean he's out there bowling, he knows what the changes are and how to adjust to them as he goes along. The other players coming on cold have to make those adjustments.
So Bob now looking for a chance to finish with a 225 once again. Back-to-back 225s for Bob Bjorke, this time winning at 225 to 187, and he'll get set to take on Simon Little in match number 3. We'll have that action for you right after we pause for this timeout. Consistency so far with 225s in the first couple games, and he'll take on Simon Little, our number 2 qualifier, who is over the 4,000 mark in total pins in qualifying for the finals today.
Well, this should be fun here, Todd, because we've got the only left-hander in the top 5. We've got Bjorke, who is obviously bowling very well. The left side of the lanes can't have changed very much. No one's been bowling over there, so Simon Little shouldn't have any problem as far as being lined up.
All right, Bobby.
We saw that almost happen earlier, remember, when he had that 7-10 standing there and he got the break to kick him out. And here again is a look at that. Remember, we were talking about how his ball doesn't hit quite as hard because of the forward roll that some of the other players get. And you see the 5-pin lay in front of the 7, and the head pin does not come all the way across and get the 10 this time. Bad break for Bjorke, and he'll start with an open here, 7-10.
We've said nothing phases Bob so far. I don't know, maybe bowling against someone half his age might, but...
Now, let's not start talking about age here, Todd. First look at young left-hander, Simon Little, and a little nervousness there. I think very nervous to start out the match. It's very obvious that, it's on television and he's got a lot on his mind besides making good shots.
The guy did well under some pressure, had a 277 in his final game to make the top 16, and moved up from the number 13 spot from that round to make our final 5, finishing in second spot.
Oh, he can throw some strikes. This young man can definitely throw some strikes. Just a matter of whether or not he can handle this particular situation. The winner of this match will go for the championship, and I'm sure that's in the back of his mind. Not that I'm sure either one of these players wants to bowl against Scott Alexander. Earlier today in the match play competition, Simon Little bowled a 300 game.
Come on, Simon.
Got a good crowd pulling for him as well. We should take a quick second as well and talk about the 5 sponsoring houses as a part of this Tacoma Masters tournament. Thank them, along with New Frontier Lanes, their Sports World, Tacoma Lanes, Daffodil Bowl, and Pacific Lanes. Not only their support, but their financial support for this event. Right back on track.
And Bjorke has been the only player today that's figured out lane 8. He's the only one that's been able to strike on lane 8. The others have been able to hit the pocket, but they've left it solid 10. Not that big an advantage now as opposed to bowling against a left-hander. And there's a good look at that last strike. Here's where he's had his problem, and I keep coming back to this, but lane 7, obviously the most difficult. He started here with that weak 7-10 pocket hit. He needs that extra ball speed on this lane. And he tried to go more direct, as you could see from the back. A great shot by our cameraman there. You can see the ball going down the lane. He tried to go more direct, in other words, straighter to the pocket. The ball didn't hold the line, even though he used a little extra speed. Here's a good look at it again, a replay of that last shot. The ball just creeping up a little bit high in the head pin. He was lucky he didn't split, really, to be honest, Todd. All right, cross lane, dangerous spare. Always that possibility of chopping the 6 off the 10. Well done.
Little maintains the 11-pin advantage. And what does Bjorke do now as he sits?
Well, what he's done the first 2 games is sat there and watched his opponent make mistakes. Now, we're not sure Simon's going to do that for him. Simon on a strike, a chance to double that lead, basically.
Come on, Simon. Come on, Simon.
Well, he made a mistake, Todd, but he got away with it.
Got away with it big time, that's true. It was one of the more solid head pin hits I think we've seen this afternoon.
He actually pulled it far enough that he got out of trouble. And you can see the look on his face. When he let go of that, he knew it was gone. This is not an easy spare. Todd is, in most cases, left-handers don't have trouble with the 7-pin in this bowling center, but Simon has had problems with this spare. I got you out there bowling now. Simon's had problems shooting the 7-pin. Be careful, like that.
Had me out there, I'd have problems with a lot more than just the 7, believe me. So Simon leaves an open frame, and again, the opportunity right there for Bjorke.
And that's been the pattern so far today. Here's a good look at it, and this is mostly nerves. Very much so. Everything is, whenever the bowler is pulling the ball across his body, generally it's a little fast with the feet, and he's nervous, and his upper body is not loose.
And you can see that continue to come and play a little bit now, and I think that may be one of the keys for a 21-year-old in this position for perhaps the first time.
Good point. And Todd, also what happens is it compounds as you make a major error of missing an easy one-pin spare. That's on your mind. You're not concentrating well, and that's a lack of experience also. And I don't understand this shot, but generally you go for the count, get the 2 pins. He went like he was trying to pick up the split. The 4-6-10 is not very likely you're going to pick that up.
Real gamble for this early in the match too, wouldn't you say?
He threw away 3 pins, basically 2 for sure.
And so, just as we said, Bob Bjorke sat down -11. He stands back up 14.
Amazing. It truly is amazing to me that Bob's got these guys mesmerized, you might say. Oh, and right back at you.
Simon's sitting there trying to decide whether he's the goose or the gander right now, but...
Now here, again, we just talked about experience. Simon threw away the pin count. Went for that difficult split. Bob Bjorke looking overhead, checking the score to determine whether he wants to make a shot at this. He's going to get 2. I know from experience, his experience, he'll go for 2 pins here. Just take the 2 and go to the next frame.
Bob now down 2.
There's a look at him. Again, at that big 4, the 4, 6, 7, 10, and they're not leaving any easy spares down there, that's for sure.
Fifth frame for Bob. And that's a mark of experience once again.
It is. And now let's see if this young man has decided that it's not as tough as I'm making it. Maybe I can make better shots.
Come on, Simon. Come on, Simon.
Yeah. Like that. And he's been very fortunate at this point. We talked about Bob Bjorke sitting on the bench and everybody making mistakes and letting him get out in front and stay there. Bob Bjorke made a major mistake, got this young man back in the match, and now maybe he's loosened up a little bit. We'll find out on this shot.
Come on, Simon. Hold on.
Well, Bob Bjorke's going to have his work cut out for him, Todd, looks like. There's a good look at his replay of that last shot. Watch the trip 6. That pin comes off the wall, splits the 6 and the 10.
And there you get a look at Simon. You saw part of the gallery there pulling for him as well. Bob Bjorke down 12.
And a great shot. And maybe the only true tap in the sport of bowling. This solid 8. Where the ball enters at the right angle, it's got the right speed, the right roll, and just actually hits a little bit too hard and chops the 5 straight back off the 8. Bad break at the wrong time. Go ahead, Todd. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, always the quick check there that you talked about before.
Wants to know where he's at all the time,
Yeah.
right? And you talked about the experience of Bob Bjorke as far as age is concerned. He is much older than the other players, and he looks like he might be getting a little tired out there. He's already bowled 8 games of match play today. They had a short break before we were right into the televised top 5, and he looks like he might be getting just a little bit tired.
But again, the type of game that maybe he can make those adjustments for the fatigue.
Very possible. He sure threw that one well. Now he seems like he's got lane 7 figured out, the toughest lane, and he's struggling on lane 8. Back and forth.
Now we've talked about Simon having to face the negative pressure. We'll see if he's able to feed on the positive, working on 2 strikes.
Doesn't take much time. Well, he's got it going now. He's pumped up, and he's he's got a lot of friends back here that are cheering him on, and I think that's helping him relax a little bit. But he still looks very nervous to me, and this game long from being over.
You saw his lead there a moment ago. Simon had a great series earlier this year as well, put together an 866 series.
An all-time Tacoma record. Fantastic. 3-game set. He's definitely got it going now.
You've talked in the past matches, too, about just overpowering the lane conditions, and he really seems to be doing that right now.
You can see the deep breaths that he's taking. He's definitely very nervous, but he's got the big lead. Getting late in the match here, 8th frame, Bob Bjorke on a strike. Needs to get it going to get back in the match. And after the solid 8 on lane 8, he came back with a strike on 7, the solid 10 on lane 8. Possibility of 3 strikes in a row, or 4 in a row, really. Instead, strike spare, strike spare. And that was a key turning point for him at this, right here in the match, I believe, Todd.
Bob on a pace right now to do, or best score that Bob can do is 193. Simon on pace for 205. Bob, an 8-time All-Star, too, and maybe we should have you explain that a little bit, the significance of being selected 8 times as an All-Star.
Well, that just really shows you that he's dominated bowling in the Tacoma area for a number of years. The Tacoma All-Star team bowls against the Seattle All-Star team in the annual intercity matches, and it was always a thrill, I know, when I was living in Tacoma to make that All-Star team and be part of that camaraderie that's developed over the years through the players that bowl in the various leagues here. And Bob has proven his ability over a number of years, and it always comes down to experience. Any kind of competition creates experience, and it gives you that little peace of mind when you're in that crucial situation. You have to make a key shot, really, maybe to win a match or to put some pressure on your opponent. Boy, when he got it going, Todd, he got it going.
Just got it in control, and Simon will move into the championship game now against Scott Alexander.
And when I was just really at the point of thinking Bob Bjorke was going to go all the way to that championship match, the way things were going for him today, he was getting the good breaks, his opponents were making mistakes. All of a sudden, Simon Little comes back at him with a 5-bagger.
Come on, Simon.
And now he's got it going. He's carrying everything. In our championship match, they don't get any easier because Scott Alexander is a very, very tough player, very experienced player, the tournament leader. He led it by a bunch. It's going to be a good match for Simon.
Any advantage now with a lefty-righty matchup in terms of the way the lanes have been playing?
I would say at this point the advantage would still be with Scott Alexander. With his knowledge and experience, I expect him to be hard to beat.
Well, Simon showing why that 300 game today and that 866 series earlier this year developed. He's really, took him a little bit to get on track there, but he's been solid from the 5th frame on.
And you know, this happens a lot with a young player. He'll come out and maybe his 1st or 2nd time ever on television, and he's scared to death basically. And he makes a lot of bad shots, and then he gets it going, and then he'll sit on the bench waiting for that next game, and he'll have kind of a letdown, physically and mentally. Let's see if that affects him when he goes into that championship match.
So 8 in a row for Simon. He closes out with a 235 and will take on Scott Alexander for the championship. Bob Bjorke will finish in 3rd place. Made that run, made the shot, and he'll finish with $800.
Well, we've had a little drama today, Todd. We haven't had any what you might call real close matches, but we've had them going back and forth like yo-yos, up and down, and not really knowing who was going to dominate. Until Simon Little came out with that 8-bagger, it was anybody's game.
Said to heck with opportunity. I'm just gonna
take this one. Let's go.
Bob finishes with a 192 after those opening 225 games, and Simon Little puts together our best game of the finals so far. He wins it 235 to 192, and Simon will take on Scott Alexander in the championship. Now, along with the action that you're seeing here, there were some seniors in competition as well, and earlier today, Earl handed out some awards to those champions.
Thank you, Todd. And right alongside of me, of course, is Dick Orr, who's been running this tournament for a number of years, does a great job, and Ken Baker, who's going to present the jacket, which is emblematic of being the champion. And this particular presentation is for the over-the-hill gang, you might say. And our first winner in the age bracket of 50 to 59 is Gary Cloyne. Come on in here, Gary. This is my age bracket, by the way. And with the check and the trophy.
Thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations. Congratulations, Gary. Great bowling. And in the age bracket of 60 to 69, come on in here, Jake Green. Great bowling. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Nice going, Jake.
Thank you, Earl.
Congratulations.
Right.
Very good. And the over-the-hill gang, the guys that lead it all, the grandfathers of the group, Del Schroeder. Come on in, Del. Nice going.
Congratulations, Del.
Nice going, Del.
Thank you.
Congratulations. It's been a wonderful week for all the bowlers, especially the seniors, and it's been a great week for the championship round just coming up. We'll be right back with that after this.
Coming up next, our championship match in the Tacoma Masters, Scott Alexander will take on Simon Little. Little, who rolled a 235 to win the third match and move into the championship game. Our top two seeds making it to the final.
All right, this will be our first look, obviously, at Scott Alexander today, and you'll see someone that really knows how to play this game. I'm very impressed with this young man's game, Todd. He gets a lot on the bowling ball. He has a great knee bend, a good style, tremendous roll, and hit on the back end.
Solid start right there.
He's not wasting any time. He knows he's got a young man here that's not very experienced. Even though Simon finished that game with 8 in a row, Scott Alexander, as you see, that good knee bend, that good extension, really reaches out on the lane. But even though Scott knows that Simon finished with 8 in a row, he knows that he's inexperienced and he's going to jump on him early. Didn't scare him a bit.
Let's talk about these two for a minute. They faced one another in qualifying, and how does that affect this match?
I don't think either one of them's really even thought about it, even though Simon Little, as you mentioned, won both games with good scores, 245 and a 246 to Scott Alexander's 243, 205. I don't think that affects them or even enters their mind at this point. Right now, they're just out there trying to make good shots, and I think if we could take blood pressures and pulses, it would be fun to see what the numbers would be.
Well, he just dropped another 5 points right there on the BP, I think. So.
Well, that's 10 in a row. And I don't know how many people out there know who Andy Verapapa was or what a Verapapa 300 is, but that's 12 in a row over 2 games. And Andy used to have a lot of those. And he counted them as regular 300, so.
I have the Pickett 300. That's 1 strike in 12 games. So.
Well, maybe this is the scores we've been looking for all day. It might happen right here.
Gonna throw some heat here.
Both these young men are really pumped up. You can see it in their faces. They're taking deep breaths, and you know, again, this is for the championship. This is for all the money, the prestige of being the Tacoma Masters champion, representing this area at the American Bowling Congress Masters Championships in Toledo, Ohio. And there's the power I was talking about, Todd, that this young man right here can generate. Scott can get the ball out. He can get it out wide of the pin area like this. Now watch, he'll get it way out in the lane. Now see how far that is? The other player's ball wasn't coming back from there. None of the other right-handers could get the ball to finish from there. He gets it back and he destroys the rack. And that one little mistake that he was making early in his first match against Bob Bjorke that he got away with that big string of strikes, he may not get away with against Alexander. The big five, not only do you get the open frame generally out of this, but you lose all that pin count. It's just a disastrous thing right now for Simon Little. Switches balls, goes cross lane. Be careful. Well, he got two more than he expected, I think.
That's true. Is it fair to say that for both these guys right now, the biggest thing they need to watch is not to overthrow early in the match? You talked about that pumped-up feeling.
That's a good point, Todd. Very good point, because what happens generally when you get the adrenaline going, like they have it right now, is they want to rush that foul line. They want to get it over with. And when you do that, you're generally going to pull the ball. Right back in there. And here's the opportunity for Scott Alexander to really jump on him. And I think it's important right now that in Scott's mind, he doesn't hurry anything. He takes his time, sets himself, which he's doing, and makes that good shot here. Don't get careless. Don't let Simon back in the match by making a big mistake. Made the good shot.
Join everyone else in being introduced to that hard 10. So,
good point there. Yeah, that right-hand lane, lane 8, has been the tough one to carry. A little extra speed on this one, and he was making sure he didn't make that big mistake we talked about. Gave it a little more room and really ripped him out of there, but didn't get to carry off the wall. The 6-pin, as you see, laying in the channel.
Talked about that power on a single pin spare. It was pretty evident right there.
Very evident. And here's another very strong young man. You see the big shoulders. He's very strong in the upper body. And he did the thing you're supposed to do. Throw it hard and straight. Cover those spares. Remember, all you have to do is hit them. You don't have to have a big hook or a lot of power on the ball. Just hit them.
It's kind of interesting, too. You go back and look at the pictures of some of the past champions of this tournament and see a lot of bowlers with a lot of experience. Here are two guys, 24 and 21, in the finals.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point also. And again, both of them a little bit nervous, as you can see.
See, would take a little off that one.
I think that's a good, yes, he did. And I think you're right, because the right-hand lane again, the left-hand lane, lane 7, the one with the most oil, doesn't hook quite as much, and he wants to make sure he gets it back to the pocket. He's clear out into that area where the other players couldn't get it back. He gets it back, but it's a little bit behind the head pin, and that's that half 7, or half 10, that weak 10. And again, we're bowling with brand new pins, and they've got those good flat bottoms, and they don't fall down very easy. Careful.
So Simon Little now down 29 as he gets set for his 5th frame.
Come on, Simon.
That's the first real tap that I can remember that Simon Little's had all day. He's either made a big mistake and got the open, or he's thrown a strike. And that particular shot he was very happy with when he let go, I'm sure, and it was in the pocket area, but again, a little extra speed, the solid 7.
He left the only other 7-pin I can remember him leaving earlier and missed it. Let's see what he does with this one. Covered that one very well.
Much more comfortable, wasn't he?
Doesn't show much emotion. Seems to keep it well within himself. Actually looks like he's out there practicing.
Come on, Simon.
Well, that was pretty evident what happened there. It was pretty easy to see. Simon making the mistake of opening his shoulders at the foul line, getting the ball to the left side of the lane or out near the channel too soon. And being as it's a little drier out there, a little more friction, the ball hooked early, went through the middle of the head pin, and here's a good look at it from behind. This is an excellent camera angle. See the ball going way out to the left, much wider than he's been playing it, and it hooks harder in the back, goes through the middle of the head pin. And Simon showing a lot of inexperience, missing all 4 pins. Again, throwing away a huge pin count, which can make a major difference as the match comes down to the end. I think he's trying to hide behind that post right now, Todd.
I was just going to say, get a little counsel there from someone seated behind him. And Alexander now, as you see, 47 pin advantage.
And he's doing the right thing, Todd. He's staying aggressive. He's not relaxing. He's going out and he's attacking the pins. He's not just waiting for something to happen. He's going out and getting it. He's bowling like he's behind in this match rather than 47 pins ahead.
Has to be a real enjoyable position for a bowler, an experienced bowler to be in, though.
Very much so.
Putting the hammer down.
He definitely is doing that, and like we said, he's being very aggressive. He's not giving Simon Little that opportunity, that window to get back in the match.
Simon down 57 right now as he gets set for his 7th frame.
Simon.
And a little bit look of disgust, I guess you could call that. Simon very upset with himself more than anything else, I'm sure. The fact that he'd finished that first game bowling so well with 8 in a row, started this one with 2 in a row, and then the world fell down. The big 5 in the 3rd frame, wide open split again in the 6th. Looking at the score, I'm probably saying, if I strike out, well, can I make it close? And maybe Scott will trip and fall down.
If I tie his shoelaces together, yeah. Scott really composed right there as you got to look at him.
Give you an idea of the ability of Scott Alexander. It's very likely he will be voted the Northwest Regional Player of the Year on the PBA, for the PBA, and with earnings of $9,000 this year and 2 wins in the Northwest region, he's very deservedly so their Player of the Year. So he's got a lot of experience for a young man of 24. He's won against the best players in the Northwest, professional and amateur alike. So he's been in this situation many times when it comes down to one game.
Simon covers that 7 again, flirting with danger a bit. He's kind of trudging himself back to the bench right now. Not a fun spot to be in.
No, but he has to, I think when it's all over and said and done, right now I'm sure in his mind he's not very happy. It's very obvious. Nobody likes to lose, especially the championship match, but he has to feel good about his performance throughout this big event in the Tacoma area, the Tacoma Masters. He's done a good job. This is really a learning experience for someone of 21, and I'm sure that'll help him in the future with his game when he gets into other competitions, and again next year probably in the Tacoma Masters.
It's another real good ball for Scott, and Again,
Another
unlucky
ball,
with the 10.
not really the kind of roll he normally gets on the ball. A little flat 10 there. Scott just doesn't want to make the big mistake. He wants to keep it in play and make his spares, and he knows he's a winner. And he's earned it, Todd. He's earned it. He's bowled well throughout the event. Led it by a big margin over second place. It's been a great week for Scott Alexander. Great week for bowling in Tacoma.
Really has been a great event, and the Greater Tacoma Bowling Association can take pride in the job it's done putting it together, too.
And it's nice to be home.
I'll bet.
I have a lot of friends here.
Even though the water's high.
Even though the water's high. But I've got high water pants, so I'm okay.
If you were going to take a moment and just sit down with these two youngsters afterward and lend them a little advice, what kind of information would you pass along to them about their games?
I'd probably ask them how they do that, how they get so much on the bowling ball. Maybe I could learn something, Todd.
But I mean, seriously, you have to sit here and take a look at and see some potential in guys this age, really.
Oh, yeah. I'm always amazed as I travel around the country, around the world as far as that goes, and see the young bowlers coming up in places like Japan, Australia, Germany, Finland, places like that, and all over this country. The talent of the young athletes coming into the game today, and the game is growing dramatically overseas, the Far East, and, of course, in Europe. And the young players coming up, 18, 19, 20, 21 years old on the PBA Tour, their abilities, and they're not afraid of anybody. They're ready to go out there and mix it up with Marshall Holman or Mark Roth at any time. And this has to really be a letdown, as we talked about earlier, for this young guy, but he'll be back. He's got that ability. He'll be back.
What he wanted for his 10th frame.
Doesn't really matter. Obviously, he's lost the match, and he's going to finish second, but he should be proud of himself for doing as well as he did.
Got the pin count that time. Simon finishing with a 154. Maybe that, too, a little bit of a sign of youth. You either go high or you finish low.
There's our champion. He's finishing out. This young man's going to be around for a lot of finals and a lot of tournaments. He's got that kind of ability. He thinks well. He makes good adjustments on the lanes. And he has a wide range of talents, being able to adjust ball speeds and change the roll. So he's going to be around a while. He's going to make some money out there throwing a bowling ball.
Well, he's going to make $1,200 today, and Simon Little will finish with $1,000. Simon finishing, by the way, with a 155, and we should take a quick second, too, and thank Mike Anthony for all his help with the numbers today so that we didn't have to think much at all, which I know is a big advantage for me. .227 for Scott Alexander. And again, you can hear our crowd here at New Frontier Lanes. Scott Alexander, our champion, defeating Simon Little, 227, 155, and we'll be back to present the awards from New Frontier Lanes in Tacoma right after this timeout. Tacoma Masters, a big success. We want to recognize them for their efforts and thank them for all of their hard work. Right now, Ken Little from NORPAC 2 is here, and Ken's going to hand out the jacket, emblematic of the champion there. He's trying to find a sleeve. He's not used to having anyone put on a jacket for him, so. Scott, congratulations. And right now we'd like to bring out Mike Anthony from National Distributing and also representing Bud Light. And he has the important stuff, the hardware and the check presentation.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Congratulations, Scott.
Thank you very
Nice
much.
bowling.
Thank you.
Scott, congratulations. And Earl, I know you have a question for our champion.
Just very briefly, Scott, congratulations on a great win. You bowled super all week. You deserve to win. One thing, on lane 7, most of the players seem to be having trouble getting the ball back to the pocket, like there was a skid area out there. You made great adjustments. What were they?
Well, I just tried to keep the ball speed up and get my feet a little bit further to the right on lane 7 just so I could avoid that hang area. I didn't want to make any mistakes and just stay clean. I thought I had a good chance to win that way.
Well, you did well, extremely well. Congratulations.
Scott, congratulations. We do have just a moment here as well. We want to bring out Steve Fontana, the manager of New Frontier Lanes, and Steve has a special presentation to make. Either that or a dance routine, one of the two.
Stuck in my pocket. Earl, on behalf of Ron and Clee Ditmore and the staff here in management of New Frontier Lanes and all your fans, we'd like to present you for this for your help in commentating and today's show.
Well, thank you, Steve. What's in here?
You have to open that up and see.
Oh, my. Look at that, huh? Wow.
Thank you again, Earl.
Thank you, Steve, Ron, Clee, everybody here, and thank all of you. I really appreciate this very much.
Thanks very much, Steve. We appreciate it. And Earl, some closing comments from you.
Well, I enjoyed it very much. It's great to be back in Tacoma, and I'll tell you what, the best fans and best bowlers in the world come right out of the Northwest, right?
Earl, it has been a pleasure for all of us. We sure appreciate it, and we thank all of you for joining us as well, and that'll wrap up the 28th Tacoma Masters from New Frontier Lanes. And once again, congratulations to Scott Alexander, our tournament champion. Special thanks as well to New Frontier Lanes, Sports World, Tacoma Lanes, Daffodil Bowl, and Pacific Lanes for all their help in making this 28th Tacoma Masters a success. For Earl Anthony and our entire crew in Tacoma, I'm Todd Pickett saying thanks for watching, and so long, everybody.